What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Scott Donnell of GravyStack.com. He also runs ApexLeadershipCo.com. But Scott, I always like to, before I formally introduce you, mention other episodes people should check out of the podcast. And we were introduced, big shout out to Lee Benson. Lee grew Able Aerospace from 3 to 500 employees, achieved a 9-figure exit. He actually co-wrote the book with Scott called The Value Creation Kid, which is the healthy struggles your children need to succeed, which we'll dig into. You could check out more about Lee at etw.com. And Scott, I had some of my favorite author interviews that I've had. Chris Voss wrote Never Split the Difference, past FBI hostage negotiator. John Rulin wrote Giftology, which I know you know John as well. He's an advocate for GravyStack and what you're doing. Michael Gerber of the E-Myth, Perry Marshall wrote 80/20 Sales and Marketing, and a fan favorite, Gino Wickman, who wrote Traction. So we'll dig into Scott's book, but
all those guys are dear friends, and half of those guys are actually investors in GravyStack, our app for families to learn money. So yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I saw. What are some of your favorite books? Authors?
I love, my go-to is The Road Less Stupid, Keith Cunningham. Fascinating. That's like a playbook for every entrepreneur. Who Not How, Dan Sullivan, probably one of my other favorite books. I was one of the first readers of the manuscript. It's brilliant. I mean, the list could go on. Like Tiny Habits, my friend BJ Fogg. That's a brilliant book. Limitless by Jim Quick is a brilliant book. I got to give a shout out to my co-host of our show. We have Smart Money Parenting is our show for families. Chad Willardson and I do this little tiny, 20-minute topicals, and almost 100% of our listeners have listened to all the episodes. So it's kind of crazy.
Wow.
But Chad wrote the book Smart Not Spoiled. So it's the 7 money skills for kids and parents to learn. And then our book, Value Creation Kid, obviously is my first book. I don't know if I'll ever write another one because we put it all in here. When you combine those 2 books, it really sets a family up for success financially to pass it on to their kids.
And I saw on your site, I think Hal Elrod is an advocate. I've had him on, and his book, Miracle Morning. I think he has several Miracle Morning kind of books there. Yep. So how did you and Lee get together to write this book?
Yeah, so we've met at Genius Network with Joe Polish. And we hit it off the bat really well. And we started using his company, ETW, to help us with our most important number. And he immediately invested in GravyStack when we launched GravyStack, just because the mission is 50 million kids financially competent and ready to succeed. It's how do we make the biggest dent in the next generation and really curb these issues, these systemic issues of debt and student loan issues, and less than 1 in 4 22-year-olds is financially independent, and all their parents thought they would be, and they're not. And there's just so many issues. It's going the wrong way. And so he joined on GravyStack side. That's how we initially got connected. And then as I started writing this book and putting my principles down, I had a call with him, and he's like, "Oh man, you need any help?" And I was like, "Sure. Let's write it together." So it was an incredible 6-month experience with him. He is a brilliant man. Now he doesn't have kids of his own. He's a kind of a godfather to many kids. He coaches thousands of high schoolers and college kids. But I wish he had kids because he's an unbelievable mentor to me and friend. And the principles that we put together in this book, I think it was a 1 + 1 = 10. And this thing is ripping. Like we just hit Wall Street Journal bestseller. We're all over we sold 3,100 copies the other day, like a little bit ago. It's just ripping. So I think parents are really starting to understand, yep, there's a certain way to raise your kids to ensure success. And a lot of people don't do it that way. So that's really the principles in Value Creation Kid.
We'll talk about, some of the top lessons learned that you've learned from interviewing some of the wealthiest families on the planet, and they were able to keep their wealth into generations. And that's, I think you mentioned, what's the stat of like the third generation? There's some stat out there, right?
Yeah. What we're trying to stop here is, well, first of all, we're trying to stop generational poverty. How do you get a kid who doesn't have the skills at home? They're not being taught. Their parents don't know it. How do you get them there? How do you get them with the right mindsets to learn the core money skills, right? That's one side of the equation. That's why GravyStack, this app, the banking and investing app for kids and teens that plays like a game, that's why we built it. Because we learned that kids, I've worked with 6 million families now on financial literacy. And the only way kids learn is fun and real life experience. That's how you learn. You can't homework your way to this in school. You can't do more homework, can't read a book and be there. You've got to do it with real money in the real world and have a fun time doing it. And so that's why GravyStack is like 100 games inside this banking app for kids and parents. It's like 23 cents a day. And the average family is saving like $500 in the first month, by the way. It's insane. I can get into that a little bit, but that is the tool for families that might be struggling, but also the wealthiest families in the world, because we took their best practices and put them in this app for everyone. Okay. And so what happens with wealthy families, like first generation wealth, right? 90% of it is gone by the grandkids. 90%. Why? That was the question I wanted to answer. What is going on? Shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Why does that happen? And what we saw was so many parents, 90% of them, they start with love and they say out of a good intention, they go, I just want to give my kids all the things I never had. I just want to give them all the opportunities I never got. I want to make sure they don't have to deal with all the problems I had. Well, what made you, man? Like going through those healthy struggles made you who you are today. Now, we're not saying to pass on trauma. Don't abuse or neglect your kids, but there's some systems that you better put in place real quick to make sure that your kids are prepared for wealth, that they're prepared to earn our 5 core money skills that we've learned from these families, these 100 legacy wealth families. And by the way, to be a legacy wealth family, you have to have rock star kids and grandkids. They have to be generous, kind, hard, like charging, driven, successful, wealthy themselves without your money kind of generations. That's what cues you in. And by the way, the most important piece to us is deeply connected with a family legacy that matters, a mission, a shared value and mission in the world. That's what qualifies in our 100. And we had to scour the globe. Okay. It was not easy. So a lot of these families, we were shocked. They did the same stuff. But what shocked me more was that no one else did them. Nobody else practices the home economy system. Nobody else practices the heritage legacy stuff. Everyone else does allowance. Everyone else does like, I got to make so much money and give it to my kids. It's like ridiculous. I can't believe it. And so we just dissolved all the information into the Value Creation Kid book and then the GravyStack app to make it operational.
And Scott, I'm going to formally introduce you, and then we'll get into some of the top lessons you learned from some of the wealthiest families around that was able to keep it and pass it on from generation to generation. The generations keep it. But this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to your Dream 100 relationships and partnerships. And how do we do that? We actually help you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a company to launch and run your podcast. We do accountability, strategy, and the full execution and production. We call ourselves the magic elves that work behind the scenes to make sure it's easy for the host and the company. For me, Scott, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I've found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and companies I most admire on this planet and share with the world what they're working on. So like Scott, if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, you can go to rise25.com. And formally, Scott Donnell is the best-selling author of Value Creation Kid, the host of Smart Money Parenting. Like he just said, he's the founder of GravyStack, which is the banking and investment app for kids and teens that plays like a game. And he also created Apex Leadership Company. They're the largest school fundraising franchise in America. They have over maybe this has changed, but from my research, over 4 million customers served, 100 million raised for schools, and 450 employees nationwide. He also started Hapbee Technologies, which is Hapbee, which is a public biotech company that focuses on mental health. And since 2011, his companies have taught leadership, fitness, and financial competency to over 6 million kids nationwide. And I'm excited to dig into the value creation kid, and I love kind of the healthy struggles, right? You keep measuring healthy struggles
Yeah.
your children need to succeed. So start off with some of the top lessons that you learned from these legacy families.
Yeah. The biggest lesson was the number one lesson was this. They taught their kids how to create value, not money. They focused on value, not money. Money is a store of value. Okay. Money in itself should not be the goal. Value creation is the goal. That's how you create lifelong wealth, lifelong impact, lifelong value. So what these families did is they're like, okay, and this is in the book. So we have 3 types of value creation. All right. Material value, emotional value, and spiritual value. Value is not money. Money is a store of one type of value. But when you think about creating value in the world, a kid can look at the world with a lens and say, I can create value in any situation. I can make a difference. I can make an impact. I can create value right now for myself, for the people around me. And it's not just, the money you make. That's not what that is, right? What we're talking about is the material value of what you create and produce in the world, the emotional value of how you think and feel and help other people think and feel, and the spiritual value, how you lift other people up to something greater than themselves. That can be done in any situation at any time with a kid. And so the idea here is kids, instead of likes on TikTok or the public, the cool kids club or the clicks or the popularity or self-image or all these issues, a kid's lens should be their primary motivation and drive is like, how can I create value right now in this situation? It changes everything. It changes their entire mindset, changes their mental health. It's the antidote to entitlement and spoiling a kid and victimhood, laziness, anxiousness. It's all gone when you focus on this value creation cycle. And that's the healthy struggles your children need to succeed. And so kids learn capabilities and confidence and value creation as they go through healthy struggles. And that's the precipice of the book. That's the point. We have 90 healthy struggles that families can help their kids go through that are not taught in schools, that by the time they're done, they're a tornado of value creation in the world, a powerful force. So that's the point of the book.
Can you talk through an example for each of them? So, from an emotional, spiritual, what's an example?
Yeah. So, I'll start with material. Material is what you create and produce in the world. So my 7-year-old Reagan, she loves flowers. And she's like, how can I add value and create value with these flowers? So there was a local children's business fair. She launched Reagan's Flower Power 6 months ago. She went to the fair. She brought 60 vases with her flowers in it for $5 a pop, made $300 right there in 3 hours. Everyone loved it. Everyone was happy. They were raving fans of Reagan's, and she was 6 at the time. And think about the confidence, right? Think about the capabilities she learned in doing that small business for a day, right? She created an incredible value. She created material value and emotional value in the people that bought it. She learned profit. She learned price. She learned product, pitch, marketing, her passions. That kid is a rock star, right? And she didn't just go blow it on ice cream. We taught her how to do the 5 money skills with it. She learned how to earn. She learned how to invest, save, spend, and share. So she split up all those funds, and then she created immense value from it, right? So that's a good material value example. Emotional value. Emotional value is how you lift others up, how you feel and how you make other people feel. It's probably the most scarcest commodity in the world right now. But in any situation, you can lift other people up emotionally. You can brighten their day, encourage them, and check in with them. Praying for somebody lifts them up spiritually. That's the third type. There's so many different examples of how you can create value in the world. But if you really look at everything as a value metric, then a kid always has something to do to lift themselves and other people up around them. It's not about money first. That's the issue. When kids very few kids are even going to even think about money, right? That's the problem. We surveyed 1,000 families when we started GravyStack, and the parents overwhelmingly, these are wealthy and poor parents alike, okay? Struggling parents and parents that had millions. They have no roadmap. They had no clue what to teach their kids when, in what order, and even if their kids will listen. So they're like, we need help. Give us a roadmap. And that's GravyStack, right? The 100 games, the home economy system. Well, the poor parents were like, we need help too. Like, we're just trying to cover ends meet, but I don't want my kids to know that I don't know anything. How do we make it fun so I can play along with my kids and actually learn, right? So that's also GravyStack. But now get to the interesting part. Guess what the kids said? Overwhelmingly, the kids said, we don't want to talk about it. Money is a conflict in our home. Sex and money. Kids don't hear about the first one. They hear about money. We can't afford this. You know, money doesn't grow on trees. You know how much that cost? Do you have any idea how hard I worked to get you this and you blah, 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 blah? Those are the things that make kids shy away from money. Only 5% of the kids have that entrepreneurial gene where it's like, where can I go make money, Dad? Where can I go make money? 95% of kids don't even want to talk about it. They'd rather wait until they're adulting to talk about money. And then by then it's too late because they've already got credit cards and student loans and bad habits, right? So focusing on value is the critical piece. Money comes as a byproduct of creating value, right? That's the piece.
So Scott, the material, the emotional, what's an example of the spiritual piece?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me as a Christian, anytime that I can pray for somebody, I can lift them up, I can encourage them, share a verse. You know, I love Jesus. He's probably the greatest adder of spiritual value to ever exist. But that's not the only way that you add spiritual value. You know what else did? We're going to send a man to the moon and bring him back safely by the end of the 60s. Think about that. That took a whole country and set us in one direction and lifted us above ourselves. Think that's incredible spiritual value for a country to connect and unite. Arguably one of the last times we were all united. So there's a lot of ways to increase spiritual value. The goal is to rise somebody above themselves, think higher than themselves, bigger than themselves, more than themselves. That's immense spiritual value. And that's needed, man.
You were mentioning the 5 things. Could you repeat them again? You said earn, invest, save. What were the 5 items?
Yeah. So these wealthy families, these legacy families, they focused on the 5 money skills: earn, save, spend, share, invest. They made sure that their kids, starting at an early age, had a system of understanding all 5 of those. They never gave them freebies. They did not do allowance. Allowance is socialism. It's free money. A kid will never spend your money in the same way they would spend their own hard-earned money. Okay. A kid does not need to learn how to learn how to spend. They don't have to learn how to spend. Okay. They're either going to hoard it or they're going to spend it all. A lot of kids they're naturally wired that way. But what you have to do is create a system in the home where the kids are earning funds, they're doing their expecteds, and they're covering their own expenses early on. And that's what's in GravyStack, the home economy system. This was probably the greatest learning we got from these families, was the 3 E's. Okay. You want me to explain them? Okay. So allowance doesn't work because you're just giving free money. And even if you make your kids do chores, half the things they're doing for chores you should never pay for. Why would you pay your kids to make their bed, clean their room, and brush their teeth and do well in school? Like, you should not pay for that. But the other half of the stuff you should pay for individually so they can learn to create the material value created from each job. Parents that have their kids do a list of chores and then pay allowance, it's like a salaried employee. They're not actually learning value creation. The parents still have nagging and conflict and fights to get the chores done. The kids often forget. They still know they're getting the allowance anyway. It doesn't work. The worst problem is when parents they're like, I don't pay my kids anything. They're the good kids that do all the chores. Well, okay, they're compliant, but now you're paying for everything for those kids every single month, spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and they're not learning anything about wants and needs and trade-offs and budgeting and financial competency. Okay. Those kids are arguably the worst off. So what we created with all these families, and they all do this, they do the home economy system. 3 E's. Number 1, expectations. Here are the 7 things that you're expected to do in our home that we're not paying for. This is your rent, kid, right? Anything in the room, dishes and trash, doing well in school, like the simple stuff. You're never paying for that. And that's like your table stakes. The second E is where everyone goes wrong. Expenses. At age 6, you should start passing off expenses to your kids. Toys, trinkets, souvenirs, in-app stuff, technology, extra sporting equipment, birthday presents for your friends. By the time they're 10 or 12, social outings, trips they want to go on with friends, okay? By the time they get their car, gas, insurance, half their car, like pass off the expenses because that's the only way they have motivation to earn, and they do trade-offs and monthly budgeting and planning ahead, all right? So when you do that, guess what, mom and dad? You just saved hundreds of dollars a month, maybe $1,000 a month that you can now pay your kids to cover their own expenses. And that's the third E, extra pay. We have 55 home gigs, we call them, in the app, in GravyStack, that are auto repeating daily, weekly, monthly, or one-off in a printout for your fridge every week. So your kids know exactly what they need to cover, exactly how they can go make money. We even have 50 brain gigs, Jeremy. They can do fun educational gigs to make a few extra bucks on top of school because kids need to learn that they can make money with their brain. That's the reason. They need to learn that it's more than just hands and feet. You can create a lot of value with your brain. And so we have brain gigs and action gigs that kids can do inside of the app. And it's an automated system. So the parents set it one time and it's set forever and they can edit it as they go, but it's a print off for the fridge. And now the kids never ask for money again. That's the key to GravyStack. That's what all these families did. It's like the bank of dad is closed, 10-year-old, from now on, right? And there's a lot more we can get into, but that's the point, is like get these kids thinking about creating value, covering their expenses, and no more being the bad guy or the pushover. They will never ask you again. They know how to earn it.
I want to talk about an example, maybe one brain gig example, one home gig example, but Scott, I'll tell you where I failed. Okay. During COVID, obviously everyone's was at home. There's virtual schooling. And I said, listen, we wanted to do a masterclass, watch one masterclass video a day or something, and they could choose whichever one it is. They have a lot of amazing stuff on masterclass. So I said, listen, and I'm like, I'll give you $5 when you finish each masterclass. And my wife was like, you crazy? Like, they're going to start going through these things. And I'm like,
yes,
they didn't finish one of them, which I was surprised about. But, we would do one a day. So I don't know if it's a failure. I mean, they would get through some of them. They never finished one complete one. So somewhere I failed along the way. I mean, they did some of the education, but I'd love to hear a home gig example and a brain gig example.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the quick fix to what you were doing is you just cut off expenses. You just cut it off. Like, hey guys, if you do this, here's your money you're making and here's the expenses that you got to plan for that are coming up. You put those 5 expenses on a list. Guess what? It's like the light switch turns on. And then once they've started to earn their own money, that's the independence, the freedom, the responsibility they take, the personal ownership, the delayed gratification, all that comes from that switch, right? So for us, the action gigs are things like sweep the garage, wash windows, pump the tires, make a meal, clean a bathroom, clean the common areas, mop, vacuum, whatever it would be, organize a closet, alphabetize my books, yard work, put together furniture, pack for the next family trip, all that stuff, right? It's all automated in the app. You can set a price. You set how many kids you want to give it to, when it renews, daily, weekly, monthly, it's right there. And they just check it off in a box once a week. And then their paydays on Saturday at midnight, right there into their money machine. It's brilliant, right there into their bank account. And it auto saves, auto shares, auto goes into spend jar, and auto investing, right? You got to set up those habits. The brain gigs are like TED Talks, articles, read a book, no sugar for a week, right? There's so many awesome things. And I like this one because grandparents love to give brain gigs to grandkids. They love, and the only way to get the brain gig is to send responses that you completed it, right? Here's my 3 things I learned. Here's my 2 paragraphs of what I learned. That's right there in the app. So we're setting up an entire like family tribe or an inner circle where relatives and grandparents can be like giving these challenges to the kids. And I really have to stress this. They need to know that their brain can make them money and create value as well. That's critical. Most of the time, we only give our kids hard labor. But what they really should know is like, hey, there's other ways you can make, you and I are making money by using our brains, right? We're creating value, immense value by using our brains. And we got to teach our kids that. And so that's why we have action and brain gigs.
Yeah, maybe I failed because it was too big of a chunk or something. You know, like a TED talk, like you mentioned, is smaller to bite off than maybe 12 videos on something. But so I appreciate that.
And there's also a supply and demand curve. Maybe $5 wasn't enough or something.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, I want more. Then negotiate.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm gonna share my screen for a second. So if you're watching the video part, if you're listening, you can watch the video. There's gonna be a YouTube video on this, and then we're looking at GravyStack here. You can go to gravystack.com to check everything out. You said there's embedded 9 healthy struggles in there. What's an example of when you say healthy struggle? Give people context.
Well, any athlete knows this. Academics know this. Business owners know this. But we go through a huge list of soft skills, hard skills, negotiation, persuasion, public speaking, real estate, finance, car maintenance, kitchen use, cooking. Like these are all healthy struggles that a kid needs to do on their own and push through so they can learn capability, confidence, and value creation. All these things. And most of the 90 are not taught in schools. So these are career prep skills, technology skills, finance skills, practical skills, right? Like very practical life skills, not just taxes and insurance and budgeting and, you know, what's a check, you know? In fact, we threw out checking accounts in our bank on GravyStack because no kid's ever going to write a check, right? So the whole thing is built on a gaming engine, by the way, because it's fun. Like go down here, you see this, watch your money flow. We have 30 patents on this app to basically show anything that's related to gaming and banking. So the money machine, that's their bank account. That's their 4 bank accounts that we auto split the money. They watch the bubbles pop over the revenue streams as they earn money. They see it automatically fall into the different buckets as they make it. When they spend it, a red bubble comes out and they lose their coins in their accounts and it goes down because they have to connect physical cash to the digital world. And that's how you do it. You've got to feel that pinch of spending, right? So that's why we set it up this way for kids, is because fun and real life experience. You know, in the first level of the game, the kids are doing money motto quizzes and emergency expense water balloon fights and wants and needs challenges. And they do a subscription hunt where they cancel unwanted subscriptions in the home and they save mom and dad hundreds of dollars, right? These are practical skills and practical things that the kids can do.
Walk me through a little bit about how it works. So does someone go to your website or do they log in at, you know, Apple or Google Play?
Yeah. It's an iOS and Android app. Just went live a week and a half ago. We've been in beta for 6 months. We've been building it for years, 2.5 years of building this thing. It's a beast. And so they download the app. They can go to our website. If you go to gravystack.com/Scott, just my name, you'll be able to see a demo of how the app works. Okay. And then you can go right to the App Store from there and download it. It's 23 cents a day to get the whole banking, all 4 accounts, the home economy system, the printouts for the fridge, and the 100 games for the kids. And we have scholarships available if they can't afford it. But if you're not making hundreds of dollars saved with your kids in the first month or two, like it'll pay for itself 10 times over, I promise. So it's 23 cents a day. It's $7 a month. Most of that covers our banking costs. But yeah, that's the setup. You get in, you set up the kids' account. They get their debit card. You can hook up any bank account to it in the world for them. And then you just start creating their printout for the fridge, their expectations, expenses, extra pay. It auto revolves. So you set it once, and then the kids start playing. And these levels are powerful, man. We took 50 of the top like financial planners, wealth managers. We took all this content from all these families and we gamified it in this whole world. If you go down to the bottom of this page, you can see the games. It's the world of Windfall, where all these characters and kids. Yeah, there's level 1 right there, Savings Beach. That's the homepage of the kids. It's just super fun. They're learning everything about how to save, earn, spend, share, invest, how to protect themselves safely online. There's 10 games around that. Borrowing and the issues of borrowing and how to do it right, creating value in the world, skills and traits of grit, personal responsibility, delayed gratification, all that stuff is in the game. And the fun part is we have older people, college kids, and parents are playing these games just as much as their kids. So that's the fun part is, we thought this was just going to be for kids ages 6 to 18, but now their parents want to play more because they're learning alongside the kids. That's the fun part. I mean, we have insurance games and tax games and real estate games, and we have a dinner budget challenge where the kids have to make dinner on a budget and they get to make profit if they go under $10 per person, but they have to get a 4 out of 5 star rating, right? We have a travel planning challenge. I could go on for an hour on all the fun games in here, but they're all practical, not taught in schools, and they're really fun for the kids to do.
Yeah, what's you're in beta for a long time to smooth everything out. I'm curious some of the feedback you got in beta of what people loved and what people wanted improvement on, and you made those improvements when you released it.
Yeah, the biggest win in this app is it solves the money conflict. It solves the chores nagging. It solves the bribing kids, feeling like you're bribing or you're the bad guy. Parents wanted a really clean user experience to create these home gigs and get this printout for the fridge. Like we didn't have the printout that's coming like what's right now for families. They didn't have like setting expectations and expenses. We just wanted them to do that off app, but now it's all in there. The games they wanted to tweak and make them more fun, and kids competing with their friends inside the games. Just all those little bells and whistles to make it really fun and engaging for the family. But I think the biggest benefits are it solves the nagging, it solves the bribing, it solves the parents' fear that their kids aren't learning the true money skills to succeed. That's the real solve here. And I will say, like, there's other debit card companies for kids, a lot of them. You got Greenlight and Step and Copper and Till and Busy Kid, all these things. That's just a debit card. It's just a bank account. Kids never even log in. They rarely ever log in. They just ask mom and dad to put more money on their debit card so they can spend it. And that doesn't teach a kid anything. In fact, if you give a kid a debit card, it's just more of a weapon than cash, unless they learn to use it correctly and earn it well. And so that's what GravyStack is. It's that full system where they actually learn and move the needle.
Scott, is that connected to bank accounts? Like when you said you put money in and it kind of distributes it into those different ways that they should use it. How does that work on, I'm going to have to go into technical details on the back end, but I'm just curious, is that going into like a checking account somewhere, or how does that work?
Yeah, we're a real bank. It's a real bank. So the parents go through the setup. They do the KYC real quick. They hook up to Plaid. Any bank account, Chase, Wells, whatever they have, they can connect it in and fund the kids and pay the kids through the gigs. And so the kids get these bank accounts for save, invest, and spend and share, and they get their debit card for the spending portion of it. And so it's a real bank. That's, this is going to move with the kids all the way up through their teens and college. And the parents get full visibility, set permissions. And the kids are earning it. That's the key, is the kids are earning the money. They can do allowance if they want to, but we're not big fans of it. So we really push people towards this home money system. This is what really moves the needle.
Are there any things, Scott, that you kept, with any app or software, there's a pull to include more and more features as people are requesting them? Is there anything that you go, you know what, we just decided, we made a definite choice not to include this for whatever reason?
Yeah, the biggest one was this like allowance piece. It's where parents press the easy button They just give their kids money every week because they think that that's helping, and it's not. And so we really want parents to take that extra 5-10 minutes, create the system, create the calendar of gigs. And once that's set up, it's auto repeating. It's going to take a little more work, but once it's set up, it's just as easy as allowance. But now you're seeing all the benefits for your kids. All you less problems in the home, less stress and conflict around the nagging. A lot of parents do like the chore chart, the whiteboard, the tickets and stickers and points and, quarters and stuff. That's a hassle. Nobody can do that sustainably for the long term. It's very difficult to do. And so we just automated it. We made it really easy. And we really want to push families to this because it's what gets kids ready for the real world. It's what prepares them with these money skills. So that was a big one that we did. The other one is, most of these features are just requests from parents. They want more and more. None of them want stuff that we don't want to give them, right? They want more flexibility. They want it to be easier. I can't think of anything else. We said, sorry, guys, we're not doing that. But, the other thing I might say is, this is some people wanted to hijack us because we were going for 50 million kids. I mean, this is going to be one of the biggest apps in the world, right? And so some people wanted to jump in. I won't say their names, but you probably know who I might be talking about. Some of the biggest money people in the world, they wanted to jump in and take this over and be the face. And we're just trying to say, some of these people are too polarizing. And we had to just really take a stance to say, look, we're not taking sides, whether it's political or religious or all these different things. We're just trying to teach good money skills to everybody. And we don't want to give somebody all the power to look like they're the one that did this, because that might alienate people, right? Everyone can unite around teaching the next generation good money skills. And that's what we want to focus on.
It's interesting, Scott, because you, one of the ways you've been successful, it seems, is partnering and creating really amazing partnerships. And you already have amazing partnerships with GravyStack. Is that something to consider in the future? Like, obviously we see the George Foreman grill or someone, or is that, you think that's not really in the roadmap?
We have a lot of partners. We have hundreds of partners that are going to get it out to their audience. So, affiliates, if you want to go to gravystack.com/affiliate, you can just sign up and become an affiliate. $25 payouts, send it out to your audience, email it, post it, get the word out, help us out. So we have hundreds of those folks that are helping us share the mission. But again, it's not like one person that's like the X named GravyStack, right? And we've had to say no to some mega influencer type 50 million type people, but they're still going to represent this to their audiences as a partner or affiliate. We just want to make sure the larger mission is the focal point.
Yeah. This isn't your first rodeo, and I'd love to hear some of the lessons you brought from Apex leadership, because I know, you were working with a lot of schools and kids in that business. What are some of the things that really worked in growing Apex leadership?
Yeah, Apex is where I learned all this. ApexLeadershipCo.com. If any school is listening, or PTA, it's the best fundraiser in America, hands down. And what we learned there is fun trumps all. Like, if you have a kid that's passionate and having a blast and having fun, they have the longest interest span you could ever imagine. Like, they will focus. And so we wanted to make this thing really fun. Apex was all about fun runs and pies in the face and fun awards every day with the kids, teaching leadership and fitness and money skills. And so GravyStack, our whole goal is make this the most fun experience for families. And then the other thing is make it easy for parents. They are busy. They are stressed. There's a lot going on. Our biggest issue here is going to be able to get parents to even know about us, right? We want all parents in America to know about us. And so it's going to take an army of people to get the word out. And so that's the thing, is making families' lives easier so that they have more chances to connect, less pain points, more benefits. That's what we learned from Apex that turned into GravyStack. I will say, though, it was hard to watch thousands and thousands of public schools not teaching money skills. That's why we're doing GravyStack. We want these kids to be financially prepared. So That's why GravyStack exists, is to help 50 million kids become financially competent. And it was the biggest hole that I saw in the education system. And that's why we're just going hard after this mission.
Scott, I have one last question. Thanks for sharing the journey and GravyStack and Apex leadership. The last question I have is, before I want to just point people, they can go to gravystack.com to learn more, is resources. Some of your favorite resources, whether it's an app, whether it's a book. Obviously, people can check out your book as well. If you go to, gravystack.com and the resources, you can check out the book, the podcast. What are some of your favorite, whether it's app, book, podcasts?
Yeah, I mean, we've been bringing in great people for our Smart Money Parenting show. That's been a huge resource. We also have a parent community inside of GravyStack. So when they sign up to the app, and also it's on a tablet, right? You don't have to have your own phone as a kid. Parents can give a tablet or a phone to the kids to play the games. And then they're only playing games for 15, 20 minutes before they go out and do a real life challenge. So we're like anti-addiction to phone. We are really against that. So we really rail against that. But the parent elite community is probably the most powerful resource that I can see. And we've got a ton of like the world's experts coming in to help families. So that will help a ton. The book, obviously, Value Creation Kid, is the roadmap for parents. If they like to read or listen to Audible, it's on Amazon. I love, Tuttle Twins is fantastic. Connor Boyak's one of our investors. He's got great books for kids to read about freedom and capitalism and practical life skills. Big shout out to him. There's also, there's several groups that we're going to be bringing in as we launch this parent community, to be able to like support them more, whether it's for, long-term legacy planning, whether it's behavior, whether it's college prep, whether it's children's issues that they can have, whether it's, setting up the home economy system, how to motivate a kid. We're bringing in those experts as we go to help all our families. So that's like the bar none. This is something I wish I would have had when my kids were born. So that's why we want to bring them in.
You mentioned your podcast. Who are some of your favorite guests or fan favorites?
Dan Sullivan was awesome. He was hilarious. We just brought in the college, one of the top college prep guys in the country on 3 episodes ago. Most of our episodes are just Chad and I talking, because we're both experts in this. We've got, between the two of us, 9 kids with our wives that are 0 to 18. And he's been in the financial planning space for 21 years. I've helped 6 million kids learn money. So the two of us, it's just really been powerful to bring in some people and then sometimes just be us on camera.
Love it. Everyone check out gravystack.com. Scott, I'm going to be the first one to thank you, and we'll see everyone next time. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.